everyone, my name is Emmalise Feliciano and I am here at a river. I'm going to be doing this cute little kind of advice, tips and all that stuff for y'all here. I'm going to speak as loud as I can throughout the whole video so you guys can definitely hear me and not the beautiful relaxing sounds, although that is definitely going to compliment me. I'm very excited. Many of you guys might be here for the video title, some tips and tricks for your FBLA public speaking. So the 2024 National Leadership Conference, my name is Emmalise Feliciano, and this year I was the national champion. I came in first place, which was really an honor, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm coming up here to give y'all some tips and tricks for your speech so I can see everyone get first place, right? So that's gonna be good. Okay, let me sit down on this rock, set up, and then we'll get right into this video. All right, welcome back everyone. So we got a little checklist here because there's a few things that I wanted to bring up during this video. I've never made a video like this, but I remember when I was doing public speaking this year, you look up FBLA public speaking and about 3 videos come up. So now I'm making a 4th video, and this will be some more up-to-date tips and tricks, things I wish I knew going into it. So yeah, like I said, I had graciously got first place. It was not just me, it was from a team of my school allowing me to practice in front of them. It was my advisors encouraging me. It was my friends who were there when it was literally like an hour before my competition. I was a little nervous and they got me and they were like, Emmalise, you've been practicing, you got this. So it wasn't just me, it was definitely my community and my team that got me to first place. So I gotta say thank you to them. So I'm gonna give you guys today 5 useful tips. Not only that I wish I knew, what drastically changed my speech once I got told it. A bunch of good stuff that, like I said, I just wish I really would have known before I did public speaking. But I learned it throughout the process, and I'm here to pass it on because that is probably one of the most valuable things. Learning it and then passing it on, right? Valuable knowledge. All right, so most of us know that the public speech, you've probably seen it, you've seen the rubric, the guide. Typically the collegiate, I just want to clarify that I was a collegiate first place winner. I know there's middle school and there's high school, so there is those 2 categories, but looking at both of them, all of these tips and tricks isn't just for FBLA public speaking. It can be used for all types of speeches, but I am going to be narrowing it down so you can feel confident at the FBLA public speaking. So the very first tip or just thing that I want to bring up is the very first one. Like I said, it can be used, all these tips and tricks can be used for any speeches, but this one's for FBLA specific. So the first thing I have here, when you are creating your speech, especially at the collegiate level, I don't know if they're going to change it in 2025 and onward, but so far for the past few years it has been the same theme. They give you a very broad topic. They say, it must be a business nature and incorporate 1 or more of FBLA goals, right? And you think of that and you're like, wow, that is so broad. What exactly can I tell that hasn't been told already, or what can I tell to make myself stand out? And there's going to be many different ideas that flood to your brain. I recommend brainstorming it all down so you can visualize it. But when you're creating your speech, when you get into it and you have your outline and you're really getting into your speech, you need to remember to incorporate your FBLA goals. So I believe, and I might have to correct myself if I'm wrong, but I believe there's 7. I believe there's 7 FBLA goals that can be looked online, you can look up, or it is at the very bottom of that rubric and guidance for public speaking. It's the 7 FBLA goals. Personally, I think it's always better to focus on one goal, but incorporate at least 1 or 2 other ones, because anything more than that is really going to go over that 5-minute time limit that you have. So if you can get one good goal that you want to incorporate, right? And then you kind of add add in some of the other goals, that is going to make your speech really strong, because that's what the judges are looking for. Of course, they're looking for your speech, how you're presenting it, you know, all the other categories on that rubric: confidence, poise, your theme, your conclusion, your intro. But the basic thing that they're looking for is those goals. So me personally, I had one center goal, and in my speech, of course, it was about that goal and all that stuff, and my story and what I wanted to tell and all that stuff. But you can tell in my speech, I was using those key words: career, encourage, community, business, home, efficient money management, all those things. It wasn't all about those goals, but I incorporated those words, and that's how you could really tell that those goals were incorporated, you know? Sometimes you don't want to try to make them guess what goal, you know, don't have them guessing which goal, but instead, you know, say what goal, your thesis, you know, in your thesis, incorporate that goal, incorporate the language that they use, so they can immediately identify it, and, you know, just get that full 10 points on that box, because on the rubric it says, you know, clearly incorporate FBLA goals, you know, so you really want to clearly incorporate it, you know, and that could just be as simple as making sure the same words or similar language that the goals are in your speech. So yeah, I'm not gonna tell you guys what my speech is, because if you find me in person, I'll tell you it. But for the YouTube, the public eye, I'm not going to give my speech out, because, you know, I think every speech needs to be unique, and it needs to be your speech. So, you know, my speech was my speech, and that's what got me first place. But your speech is going to be your speech to get you first place, right? I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I'm trying to speak as loud as I possibly can. All right, so that's the first one. Remember, incorporate your FBLA goals throughout the speech. All right, moving on to the second one. So this was something that it just helped me alleviate stress. I see a bunch of people practice for their speeches a month ahead, every single day. They're practicing it like 3 or 4 times a day, even till the day before their speech, they're still drilling it in their head. You know, everybody's different. Everybody prepares, everybody's different. But for me, my tip would be to really practice your day, to really practice your speech about, or at least working on your speech. It doesn't have to even be practicing your speech. This was necessarily before states. This was me preparing for my speech, and I prepared exactly 20 days beforehand. So that was when I sat down with a piece of paper and a pencil and the rubric, and I started brainstorming. I started jotting ideas, right? And once about 3 or 4 days of me just, you know, thinking about my speech, I really started to get into it, right? I started to get into it. I started to feel comfortable. And a good thing is, when you're writing your speech, you know, you're not using those helpful hands. You're writing your speech. It's going to make it 3 times more easier to know it, because it's you. It's what you're writing. So then that leads me on. So practicing your speech at the national level, right? So that was the 20 days beforehand. I worked on it. I got it down. The week before my speech is when I drilled it in. And the week, like right before my speech, like about 3 or 4 days beforehand, I was really only practicing it twice a day. In the morning, to make sure I knew it. Like, I used to literally just wake up. I woke up in the morning one day. I remember this. I woke up in the morning, maybe 3 minutes into me being awake, I just said my speech. I was like, okay, I know it. You know, I don't need to stress myself over this. I know my speech. So then in the afternoon is when I would practice with someone, in front of someone, stuff like that. So it wasn't something that I stressed over, because I knew stress was not going to help me during this speech. I mean, I was already stressed. Why do I need to add more stress? Oh my gosh, I haven't practiced it 5 times today. Oh my gosh, I haven't done this. No. That's why I drilled it the week before. That's when I was drilling it. So really, you know, that week leading up to the date, every single day, not only was my confidence growing, but I was actually practicing. Well, I don't want to say that. I was actually rehearsing it a little bit less, because I was confident I knew it. I wasn't practicing it not at all, but instead of practicing it 4 to 5 times a day, as the day got there, you know, I practiced it 3 times a day. I would practice it twice a day, and then I got to a point where I was practicing it only about 1 time a day. I felt confident, okay, I know it, I'm still getting through it, and that's what really helps. So practicing your speech, not only beforehand, first off, you should not be making your speech and practicing your speech 3 days beforehand. People can do it, it's possible. Do you want that to be your speech? No, because remember the first one, you want to properly incorporate those goals. So you need to know and remember and have a theme that you're going with. So yeah, for me, I had 20 days beforehand. The week before, I really drilled that in. The week leading up to it, you know, I was really confident in my speech already, that I knew it. You know, I already knew my speech, that it became something I didn't need to obsess over. It was something that was just something that I was doing. You know, I didn't need to obsess over. Do not add additional stress, right? So that goes into, let's see, practice speech twice a week, right? And then, yeah, all right. So that kind of goes into speech prep. So the first 2 tips, that was the second tip. The first 2 tips is kind of speech prep, right? Before you go to your speech. So the next 3 tips I'm gonna give you are really in your speech, right? And preparing like day of for your speech. So tip number 3, make every word matter, okay? I was practicing in front of my president of my campus, right? He's a very top-of-the-line guy. Thankfully, he knows my name. I know his name. We're pretty good acquaintances and all that stuff. And we were at a DBOT meeting, and I was like, you know, I got FBLA next week. Can I practice in front of you all? And they said, yes, of course, of course. So I get up there, I practice my speech in front of it, and you could tell I was nervous, I was anxious, I was stressed. So I'm going through my speech really fast, and I'm talking really fast, you know, and I get to a point where I really need to make a point, and suddenly I'm just over it. I skipped over. I'm on the next point. I'm on the next topic. I'm about to come to my conclusion. And my president, he's a really great public speaker. He's the president of our campus, right? He talked to me afterwards, and, you know, he's like, you have great information. You have a story to tell. You have great information. He had the rubric from it. He was like, you know, you're hitting every single rubric, but I need you to make every word matter. I could literally talk about right now. I could talk about some cheesecake, and if I'm talking this fast and I'm talking this station and I'm going for the next point, then suddenly the cheesecake and making the cheesecake doesn't really make significance. Sorry, there's a butterfly over there. But when I bring it down, right, and I look at you, and I go into eye contact, and I talk about a cheesecake. I talk about a cheesecake, and I talk about how delicious it is, and how the taste on my tongue makes me happy. You know, it's one of those things where I make every word matter, because every word does matter. Every word you're gonna say in a public speech matters. So you need to convey that to your audience, to your judges, that every word that you're saying, you're not up there because, you know, you were just like, I'm up here. You're up there because you have something to say. You have something to be told, and you matter. Your words matter. So when people get up there, you know, when you make it matter, they're gonna listen, because if you don't care about it, why are you expecting other people to as well? Why are you expecting other people to listen? You know? But when you care about it, when you make it matter, it's gonna matter to everybody that listens. Even if they're not directly looking at you. If you make every single word matter, when you're at FBLA Collegiate, you're only speaking to really only 1 or 2 people. So you want to make every word matter when you're speaking, because that's what it's about. You know, you have a story to tell, you want this story to tell, right? So that's number 3 in your speech, making every word matter. You know, If you need any advice, I recommend looking up a TED Talk. The TED Talk is literally called A Speech About Nothing. It's a TED Talk, a speech about nothing. It is literally about nothing, but he makes every word matter so much that nothing was everything. It's an incredible TED Talk. I really recommend actually watching that. It's a really good TED Talk. All right, so that's number 3. This ties into number 4. Remember, we're back into kind of the speech. So you're in the speech, you know, you practice all that stuff. So a really good tip that I got was learning how to make my introductory hook and my conclusion tie together. Because 2 things. First off, it tells the audience, you know, the listener, I knew where I was going this entire time throughout my entire speech. I remember what I first said, and I'm bringing it back up because it mattered. You know, remember, like I said, every word matters. So I brought it up in the beginning, not just because I needed you to listen to me, but I brought it up, you know, again because of how important it was, you know? So learning how to tie that hook and that conclusion together was very important. So I'll give you a little bit about my speech. So I start off my speech. It's about a mindset. It's about my story, my mindset, and all that stuff. And I start off my speech with, did you know the average human has around 6,000 thoughts per day? We spend about 50% of our time just thinking. So it's important that we make every thought matter. Once upon a time, you know, right? That's just my hook. That's just my introduction. And that wasn't even the tone that I gave fully. That was just that. So then at my conclusion, right? So then at my conclusion, I start off my conclusion. Remember, I just said once upon a time. This was all a story, right? This was one way to give a speech through a story. One way, right? So I started with once upon a time. My transition to my conclusion started off with, so to wrap this story up, this chapter of mine ends, but it continues, right? So that's just wrapping up, you know, this was a whole story. So now I just wrapped up the story. So now they understand it's coming to a close. This story is coming to a close. And then I not only go there where I tie my hook back to my conclusion, I then went a little bit further with, you know, like I said, if you find me, I'll tell you my speech, but I'm not going to give it out. I'm not going to give it out to the public. So then after that, I give a little bit more information. I incorporate my goals again, right? I incorporate my goals again. And then I end it off with, so of your 6,000 thoughts today, remember this one. Right there. So remember, I brought it up in the beginning. That was my hook. That was literally my hook. Did you know the average human has around 6,000 thoughts? And then at the end, it just completes it, you know? And this is just a very effective way, and it can go so many ways, but it is important that, you know, the ending is the end. You need it to remember it. So if they can think back to the beginning and remember that from the beginning, that means they not only were listening the whole time, but it shows that you knew where you were at the whole time, and it just goes from there. All right, I'm approaching 20 minutes. I know some of us have a short attention span, so I'll keep it short. All right, so that's the 4th one. Number 5, let me get close to this. Because there was many things I did throughout my speech, many things that I was happy about, many things that I was like, what was I doing? But this one, this is probably what helped me the most, and maybe it's what gave me first place. And it's so simple. I went to a workshop, right? Literally earlier that day of the finalist day, and the workshop was about communication and the effectiveness of body language. I believe so. It was probably a different title, but I want you to know it was around that line, right? And she's talking to me about this, and you know, I had already done preliminary round, so I'm at the finals round. I'm like, what more can I do? You know, my speech is already good. But it became what happened right before my speech. So she's talking all this stuff, and she talks about, once again, another TEDx about body language. And it's what's called the power stance, right? And, you know, look this up. Look, oh my goodness. look up what the power stance is if you want more information, but I'll give you a brief information. So it's about right before your speech, there is psychological connections, positive psychological connections from getting in a power stance 2 to 5 minutes before your speech and the delivery of your speech. So there's a positive correlation between doing a powerful, confident power stance and having a powerful, confident speech. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I need to do that. Yep, today I haven't done that before. Normally, right before my speech, I sit there with my eyes closed, I breathe, and I just breathe because, like I said, I've been practicing it prior to 2 weeks every other day. I've just been getting confident, not really stressing over it and all that stuff. But she told me about the power stance and I felt its power. So we're in line and all that stuff. They have on deck, they have ready to be up and then going in. So the person ready to be up goes in and I'm like, you know what, this is my chance. Typically I'll sometimes talk to my other, I don't like saying competitors, I guess people in the category, let's just say that. And I'll talk to them a little bit, and then when that person in front of me goes, I'm like, shh, this is my time, I need to focus, okay? I need to focus. And so this time I went over a little bit, I went to the corner, and it's just this is all I did. Funky, okay? It looks a little like when she was first explaining it, I was like, I don't need to seem like I have a big ego right before going to my speech. But then it hit me, nobody's doing my speech besides me. I need to feel as confident as possible. Which is why, like I said, the person went in front of me, I went over to that corner, I took a deep breath, and I sat in that stance. I smiled, and I just had to repeat to myself, I got this. I made it to the finalist round. I got this. I'm embracing a fear I have had since I was a little girl doing public speaking. I've gotten this far. I got this. And honestly, if I would have done that power stance every other time, I think I would have gotten confidence in every other speech. Keep in mind, just to give a little context, at my state level, I got 4th place. I was 4th in my state. I qualified for nationals, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, They gave me a chance to compete again. I am going to do this. So do not let any place, whether you got 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and especially if you're in 1st place, do not think because you're in 1st place you got it, okay? Feel confident, but I went from 4th place in my state to 1st place in the nation, so that was pretty good. And I think I really give props to that power stance, right? I really do. So 2 to 5 minutes before your speech, get in that power stance. If you want some more information on what that power stance is, other ways to do it, just look it up. It's called the power stance, and it's good. It's good. All right. So that is the five tips, right? My top 5 tips. So first one, make sure you're incorporating your goals, staying on theme, right? Staying on theme, staying on topic, incorporating those goals throughout the speech. Number 2, practicing your speech. Like I said, I did mine 20 days beforehand, but as you get closer to that date, you need to feel confident, which is why I say 20 days to 2 weeks, okay? That's a really good time. That's a really good time to feel confident. The longer you wait till the day of, you're gonna get a little anxious. Trust me, you're gonna get a little anxious. You don't wanna be anxious. You got this, right? So number 3 is making every word matter in your speech, because every word does matter. Making it matter, right? Number 4, tying your hook and conclusion kind of together, right? Having that kind of correlation between the two, making it like, oh wow, I remember she brought that up, right? I remember he brought that up, So having that in. And then number 5, probably one of the most important things that I think I did was the power stance. That was the power stance. I really like that one. All right, so I just want to give a few tips Well, I guess those were my 5 tips, but these are like micro tips, right? To just kind of help you throughout it. One really good tip that I learned and got was don't memorize the whole speech, word to word. Have an idea of what you want to talk about. Well, let me just go through this. This more applies to the body. Your introduction, your hook, and your introduction should be pretty memorized. That should, because you need to feel confident in that. And your conclusion transition, that should also be memorized. But your body is when this one applies a little bit more. You know, you're practicing it so much and stuff. And if you think, oh, I'm gonna memorize it word for word for word for word, that's not the best, because when you get up there, nothing prepares you. You know, you could speak in front of a crowd, you can speak in front of your parents, you can speak in front of your dog, but nothing really prepares you for when you're in front of that judge. When they're like, all right, Emmalise, you're on deck, get ready. And you're like, okay. So nothing really prepares you. So when you get in there, you know, sometimes you're not really gonna, sometimes you get a little anxious and your mind blanks out. So when you have it, when you're secure in having it word for word, and let's just say, because this has happened to me. This happened to me in 4th place, right? I got 4th place. It happened to me where I had it memorized, and I got up there, my mind blanked out. Blanked out. I sat there for about 8 seconds, just, and then once I realized where I was, I got back to it, right? I picked myself up, but I wish I hadn't memorized it and focused on memorizing it, because when I went to nationals, the way I tweaked my speech, I didn't write it out word for word. I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about for about this 15 seconds, this, you know, and as I practiced it, it did get a little memorized in some areas, but there were some areas where I always incorporated a different word every time. There was a sentence in my speech where I always changed it every time I practiced it, just in case, you know, I get up there. I know it doesn't have to be memorized. I can kind of just feel the momentum, feel my crowd, and kind of talk a little bit from there, and then get right back onto my point. So that was, just have a kind of, don't memorize it all. All right, so another one is know how to use your pauses. So that one goes into, don't just say your speech the entire tone, the entire same way, the entire speech, all the time, and then go like this, and then go over this, and then skip a really big point that the man jumped over the moon, but the moon didn't jump over the man, and then you're talking about this, and then everything goes on to that. But, don't, no. Breathe. When you watch some speeches, right, you will see that they are masters at giving you time to think. They'll give just 3 seconds, and it gives you just enough time to think about this huge topic that they just brought up. And then they give you a pause. And then they just give a pause, that's all they do. And then they'll go really fast, and they'll talk like this, and they'll get loud, and then they'll get soft, and then they'll give a pause. Just a pause. So, that's another tip. Learn how to use your pauses, you know, don't do it same speed, same tone all the way, you know, same kind of like this. Right? Kind of. I don't know if you got that, what I just did, but that was supposed to be the roller coaster of a speech. If you don't know about the roller coaster of a speech, I recommend looking that up too. All right. And then next one ties in, remember how I was saying have a good hook, your conclusion time together? That was another one. Have a good hook. Humans only have about 20 seconds to get interested in something, right? Attention span. So you have literally 20 seconds to get them hooked. So it needs to be a good hook. You know, if you need tips on good hooks, remember there's questions, there's big facts, there's quotes, there's the thinking hooks, something like that. It just needs to be a good hook. You have 20 seconds to get them interested, or else they're gonna, okay. You know, you get a good hook. Did you know the average human has 6,000 thoughts per day? Huh? We spend about 50% of our time thinking, right? Something like that. All right, this is the last one, because this one's blank. I don't know why I brought 2. Breathe. Breathe. You know, going into FBLA, if you go in FBLA trying to prove something, you're not going to learn something, right? And a very important part that I think I did throughout the whole speech was, I can't lie, I was anxious, I was stressed, I was nervous and all this stuff, but I had to breathe. I had to realize that I made it to nationals, right? I made it to nationals. It may have been 4th place, but I made it to nationals. I practiced my speech. I had people tell me it was good, you know? So there was really no big reason why I couldn't breathe, why I couldn't find time, just a minute to 2 minutes a day to breathe. Everything there, you're gonna network with amazing people. You're gonna meet great friends. There's some people in North Carolina that I met, and I was like, yo, what if I'm there? And they're like, stop by. And I was like, that's good, right? You're gonna meet mentors, you're gonna get workshops, tips, tricks, opening session, awards, and all this stuff. So you need to find time to breathe. No matter what competition you're doing, it's important that you breathe. I mean, not only because we're humans and oxygen is like really important to us, but in the fact that there's benefits from it. You know, you're relieving stress, you're getting oxygen to your brain, the blood and all that stuff. Your blood needs oxygen, everything like that. It's just something you need to do, right? Oh, another little tip I want to do. In your speech, my advisor gave me this. There's no benefit in pausing, right? So you're in your speech and all that stuff, you're going off, and if you ever feel like you're about to blank out, remember how I was telling you about those pauses? Know how to use your pauses, because if you get to a spot where, you know, you're going off and then you get to a point where you kind of blank off, if you blank off like this, right? And that's where the speech let off, and and then this and that, right? It gives that like, oh no, she lost where she's at. She may have recovered well, but she lost where she was at. Rather than, you know, and then the speech was about the way it did. You probably wouldn't have even known that I kind of blanked out there because I just incorporated it. But let's just say that, remember, there's no benefit in pausing during your speech. So it's always, if you are going to pause, you know, non-purposefully, make it into one of those like I meant to pause because this matters. Okay, I remembered where I'm at. Let's go back to where I was just talking, right? Something like that. All right. So this video is about reaching 34 minutes. That's just me yapping. It was an honor. My name is Emmalise Feliciano. I was from the Florida Collegiate Division. I'm over here by a river because my parents decided to celebrate my achievement by taking me out because they know I love the river and the water. So that's why I thought the best place to give these tips and tricks would be my favorite place, right? Go out there and do your speech amazing, because your speech is going to be amazing. Whatever story, whatever speech you have to tell, you know, these are some tips that I needed, I got, that helped me. They helped me, not they helped me. They helped me. And you're gonna get a bunch more tips, you're gonna get a bunch more tricks and all that stuff. You're gonna learn what you need and all that stuff. But you know, you're doing what a lot of people fear, public speaking. It's a big fear. It was a fear of mine and all that stuff. So to be up there and even just to try to go out there and compete against the nation, against your state, against whoever, is a really big accomplishment. So I wish you the best of luck while you do your FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, public speaking competition.